What an honor it is for me to introduce our final speaker of today. My name is Jody. I'm with Frosca Hospitality Group. We had a very close relationship with this next speaker, and I'm going to tell you why. She's a total powerhouse in our industry, Erika Polmar. Erika has spent over 2 decades blending her expertise in tech, marketing, and sustainable agriculture to support farmers, chefs, and restaurant owners. As the executive director and founding member of the Independent Restaurant Coalition, the IRC, she has dedicated her career to building stronger communities through food, advocacy, and most importantly, action. Fun little fact, today's Ed Talk falls on the 5-year anniversary of the very first call of the IRC. That was a pivotal moment for the restaurant world. It's a moment where restaurant owners and a whole crew of industry pros jumped in to lobby, rally, and fight for restaurants across the country. Erika was on that first call. She was a participant at that time, but by summer of 2020, she'd stepped up as the executive director. When talking to FHG's owner, Bobby Stuckey, about today's conversation, he wanted to make it known that Erika doesn't just step up, she shows up. She shows up every single day on the 5 a.m. calls, no days off, and working nonstop to support the industry from all angles, really understanding the struggles of restaurant owners and employees alike. Her belligerent optimism kept everyone pushing forward, especially when folks like us had to get back to work and couldn't keep fighting full time. Without Erika, we'd probably all be stuck in a group chat somewhere wondering what to do next. Today, she's here to share her insights in a talk titled Serving Change, Advocating for a More Resilient Future. Please join me in welcoming Erika Polmar.
Hi, neighbors. I'm so glad you're here. You know, when I was growing up, there was a phrase that we often heard when things were kind of funky or being troublesome. Maybe you heard it too. Look for the helpers. When things got scary, our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, maybe even our older siblings would say, there's always going to be somebody who's going to step up and lend a hand, bring comfort, somebody who will feed us. And so often, those people are restaurant people. Restaurants have always been more than just a place to eat. They're a place of refuge, of celebration. They're the place you go after a bad breakup. They're the place you go to celebrate with friends, to gripe about your boss. When disaster strikes, wildfires, hurricanes, blackouts, who's the first to offer a hot meal? Who opens their doors to first responders to nourish a shaken community? Restaurant workers. They don't wait to be asked, they just do. But something changed in March 2020. Do you remember that moment? The table's empty. Whew. Noki got nervous and I'm gonna cry. The light's turning off. I'm gonna get some water. I swore I wouldn't do this, but this used to happen on IRC calls all the time too. The lights went off, and we had no clear idea of whether or not they were going to come back on. An industry that had always been the first to help found ourselves in crisis. There was no cavalry coming, no rescue plan, no safety net. And it became clear that if restaurants were going to survive, they were going to have to help themselves. And so the Independent Restaurant Coalition was born, not in a conference room, not in some big fancy lobbying firm, but on a phone call. Just an old-fashioned phone call with 18 people who knew something had to be done. That call happened, as Jody said, 5 years ago today, which is why all of the emotions are right here. I was on that call. I had no business being on that call. I'm not a restaurant owner. I'm not a chef. I don't even play one on TV or on stage. But I had worked with chefs for 20 years in Oregon, producing events, and when restaurants in Oregon started shutting down, they called me for help because they knew that in addition to being an event planner, I was a bit of a policy nerd. So on March 11th, Oregon restaurants began shutting down, and I helped my restaurants friends write a letter to the governor asking for help. A week later, my friend Naomi called and said, hey, there's this call with a bunch of national chefs, and they're going to get together and they're going to work on this problem, and I think that you need to join the call, and I think you could really help. And I thought she was crazy. I sat on that call at my kitchen table. Since it wasn't a Zoom, I couldn't see any faces, so I had a list of the people that were on the call invite, and I was trying to decipher the accents and match them to the names and figure out who they were. But it turned out that knowing them didn't really matter. What did matter was that everyone on that call spoke with one voice, a voice that was filled with passion, frustration, and a relentless commitment to save the industry that they loved. And they were ready to get shit done. I don't know that any of us on that call would have considered ourselves advocates, but it turns out that's exactly what we were. Advocacy might sound like a really big, intimidating word. It's also a word that gets sort of morphed into meaning a million different things. I talk to banks now that have advocacy departments. But what advocacy really means is using your voice to make change, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. I bet every single one of you has been an advocate. Have you ever told a friend about a local restaurant that needs support? Have you ever signed a petition? Have you saved your friend a seat in a crowded movie theater? Maybe you saved a seat today? Or convinced your kids to eat their vegetables? That's advocacy. And it's really powerful. Advocacy isn't really about changing who you are. It's about using your strengths to make a difference. Maybe you're not the person that wants to stand in front of a microphone. P.S. I hate public speaking. Or you want to rally at the Capitol. Advocacy isn't just about being loud, it's about being effective. So if you're like me, and you're more of an introvert than an extrovert, here are some things that you can do to be an advocate. You can write letters and emails to lawmakers. Policymakers keep track of how many messages they receive on any topic, whether that's in your state house or at a federal policy or at a federal government level. And a well-crafted letter can be just as impactful as an amazing speech on the steps of the Capitol. Sharing stories is really important. If public speaking isn't your thing, helping others tell their stories, collecting testimonials, writing articles, crafting social media posts that amplify a message are all really important things. You can also organize behind the scenes. Every movement needs planners, strategists, and people who make sure the right messages are going to the right people. Support those who speak up. Offering encouragement and connecting them with resources to help spread their message is really, really helpful. Now, if you're on the other side of the spectrum and you love these things and you want to be the center of attention, advocacy is definitely for you. You can use your voice to speak boldly at public meetings, city council meetings, rallies. You can call elected officials regularly, offer to be a media spokesperson. Local journalists love firsthand perspectives. You can mobilize and rally others, organize events, fundraisers, meetups, just bring people together around the cause. Hosting community discussions is really important, and using social media to amplify those messages, not just by sharing a post, but maybe going live and answering questions, is incredibly impactful. So if you're one of those extroverts, think about doing something like that. And most of all, mentor new advocates. Your enthusiasm can help others find their voice and their confidence. No matter what your style is, two things are an absolute must when it comes to advocacy. Tell your story. Lawmakers don't remember numbers. I know that's hard to believe. There are all these economic studies around, but really what they remember is a story. They remember people. So when the IRC fought for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, it wasn't data that won. It was the personal stories from business owners who put everything on the line to fight. And then being persistent is really, really important. Change does not come overnight. We're here 5 years later. The IRC has been at this daily since March 18th, 2020, and there's still a ton of work to do. Advocacy is truly about doing this work over and over and over again. So, with doing something that is really, really slow, it's easy to get burnt out. One of the other really important things about being an advocate is figuring out how to play the long game and how to avoid that sense of overwhelm and disappointment. Some of the things that I suggest are picking one or two issues. You can't fight every battle. You just can't. I don't care if you're superhuman. It's just not possible. Focus on what matters the most to you and set boundaries. It's really okay to take breaks. It's okay to turn off the news. It's okay to turn off your email, Sarah Abel. You should also celebrate the small wins. Policy change takes time, but even tiny little baby steps make a difference. And then lean on your community. You're not alone in this, and there are plenty of other folks that will share the load with you. And I really, really recommend that you don't do this alone. If you care about an issue, chances are there's a group of people who care about it too. Find them. And if you're already part of a group and you're kind of frustrated because they're not taking on your issue, ask about it. Maybe they just don't know that anybody's interested. And maybe they're not interested and they can help you find another group that is focused on your issue. If you're in this industry, you need to come join me. I promise I will try not to cry. When the IRC started, we had one singular mission, and that was to save restaurants and get federal funding. Well, now we're still fighting because the more we dug into restaurants, the more we saw that things just weren't working. So now we're fighting against crushing credit card fees. We're advocating for childcare tax policies that would make childcare more affordable. We are working to combat reservation piracy. We are reimagining wage models, and we have legislation that would change the taxation of service charges. So I have a lot to do, so I need every one of you. And this QR code up here has all Eat Denver members, and anybody that's here today will receive a significant discount on membership. And if you're not already a member of Eat Denver, I don't know what you're waiting for. Join today, because having a strong local network makes you stronger on a national level too. Above all else, know that your voice matters. Even when it feels like you're shouting into the void, every call and every email is tallied, and every conversation, even if you have it with a neighbor or somebody else in the industry, those conversations add up. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund didn't exist before people like you fought for it. The fight for fair credit card policies, that didn't happen until small business owners looked at one another and said, "Are you paying what I'm paying?" And now there's a policy that's moving through Congress that will hopefully change that. We all have the power to be helpers, whether we're running a kitchen, serving a drink, growing food, washing the dishes, or simply showing up to support people who do. We matter, and we have to help ourselves. So let's get you on the journey to being an advocate right now. Grab your phones. I'm serious. I know you all have them. Are you ready? Enter 202-224-3121. I'll say it again. 202-224-3121. You're adding that number to your contacts as Congress. If you dial that number, you can reach your senators and your reps no matter where you live. The switchboard will direct you. It's very easy. It'll take you 2 seconds. If you really hate talking to people, call after 5 p.m. Eastern. You won't talk to anybody. You'll leave a voice message and it'll be counted. If you're waiting to pick up your kiddo at school, you're in the car at a stop or in the parking lot, call. Leave a message about the issue that's most important to you. Standing in a grocery line, it's a noisy place, call. Leave a message. I kid you not, that is what led us to have the advocates that we had in Congress who introduced the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It was us being annoying, but being kind, because the kids who answer the phone are just that. They are kids. They are interns. Do not yell at them. Leave a kind message. Tell them what your issue is. And I guarantee that if all of you do that, we'll start seeing change. Thank you. I'm really glad that I got to spend some time with you all.